Good morning. You're listening to FloorDaily.net, and I'm Kemp Harr. This morning, my guest is Joe Yarborough, the president of the CRI, the Carpet and Rug Institute. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing absolutely great, Kemp. Thank you very much. Hope you're doing well also.
I'm good. I wanted to catch up. You've got some big news. A long time ago, they released a document related to a think tank's opinion on how to manage the home environment as it relates to asthma and allergy. Let's get to that news in just a second. It's really good news, actually, for carpet. But before we get to that, let me just ask you, you actually had some positive numbers in the fourth quarter for residential carpet, didn't you?
Yes, sir, we absolutely did, and that's excellent news, obviously, for our industry because we endured a very significant downward impact during primarily the second quarter of last year, and we saw the momentum begin to build. I guess folks staying in their homes, trying to deal with this pandemic and upgrading and refreshing of their environment. The good news is we saw a really good second half of the year across the industry, and that momentum seems to be carrying through here in this first quarter of 2021.
Yeah. Okay, just to quantify it, you and I talked a couple of weeks ago. In the residential sector, comparing fourth quarter 20 to 19, you're up double digits, right?
Yes, sir, that would be a fair statement.
That's fantastic news. All the consumer had to do was spend a little bit more time at home and try to run maybe a Zoom meeting with the kids playing next door, and they decided that maybe carpet was the right kind of surface to have, right?
Yes, sir. I mean, obviously we know that carpet has many attributes, not only the value of the product being installed, but also the other attributes of thermal properties, acoustic properties, and softness when the kids slip and fall playing their game indoors. And, yeah, there's just a lot of good things about the attributes of carpet that I think they recognized again, spending as much time in their homes as they have.
Yeah, it's really good news, especially when you consider the headwinds of the fact that the hospitality market has been switching to more LVT, and the multifamily business, has been in a mode now for the last 8-10 months where, they couldn't evict anybody, and so there was fewer turnovers. And both of those have affected the overall market. But even in light of that, you've seen growth, so that's really good news.
Yes, sir. Comparing year over year, quarter over quarter kind of perspectives of it, I think we see this favorably in terms of where the carpet flooring segment is operating these days.
Joe, I got a question for you. It's kind of a riddle. What kind of floor covering doesn't scratch?
Soft kind.
Okay, let's get on to this news. This book came out. It's not published that frequently. It's a 350-page book, too. I poured through it the other day when I got this news. Somewhere around page 40 or so, they talk about carpet. Back in 2013, they had recommended, this think tank of doctors had recommended that if you want to minimize the impact of indoor air quality related to asthma and allergy, they'd said, you just take your carpet out. And now they've published a revision, and they don't say that anymore, right?
That is correct. And I'll be candid, for the last 8 years or so, the CRI representing our industry has worked with the National Institutes of Health's oversight for the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, working with them for 8 or more years specifically to get this language revised. So it's taken, almost a decade of serious work to let the real science dictate what kind of message that their recommendations would give to an asthma and allergy sufferer, whether it be, in a residence or in a school or other places where carpet is an excellent choice for the flooring.
Actually, you've had some industry experts go up there and testify, then show some science that shows that if in a properly maintained room, carpet can minimize the amount of particulates in the air. Isn't that right?
That is absolutely correct. We had some studies performed and other scientific documentation presented to the NHLBI expert panel that demonstrated that carpet actually keeps particulate matter like dust mites and other kinds of things that can trigger asthmatic reactions, that carpet, number one, the material acts somewhat as a filter or a sink so that the materials are somewhat held in the carpet, face fibers, and then they're not lifted from the floor to the breathing zone, that's the area where your respiration is typically taking place, as much as perhaps with some other surfaces that were demonstrated in these tests. Properly maintained carpet, acting as that trap and filter, can in fact enhance the environment when it comes to indoor air quality and the impacts on asthma and allergy sufferers. At this point, they heard the science, they reviewed it, and they came to the conclusion that they no longer need to recommend carpet removal for an asthma allergy sufferer. That's obviously very good news for a number of reasons. One, because carpet won't be removed from a space just because of the concern for the asthma allergy patient's reactions, but also, when properly maintained, it serves as that filter to actually hold it. So when properly vacuumed or otherwise cleaned on a recommended basis, then those things are removed in a way that don't impact that asthma sufferer. Thirdly, it's an economic situation. Many times those that suffer with asthma and allergy are economically disadvantaged, and to have to go through the cost of removal and replacement of a carpeted flooring with alternatives can be a very significant impact on the economic situation of the family or the asthma allergy sufferer's environment.
Mm-hmm. So what is the CRI going to do to get the word out? Because, you have a 350-page finding that comes out. Now we need to say, knock, knock, hey, asthma allergy doctor, have you read the latest report? What are you going to do about that?
Well, we're in the process of working with several media formats to make sure that the message of this change in recommendation is clearly distributed amongst the healthcare communities, particularly those that are specialists in the respiratory and asthma allergy fields of treatment.
Yeah.
We're going to do this through electronic information opportunities, obviously on our own website, targeted towards those areas of our society that actually deal routinely with asthma allergy conditions, so that they're clearly aware that the old recommendations are no longer there, and they even reference this economic potential in some of their documentation that I think will give an impact to those who are making those kind of decisions for their own environment.
All right, Joe, I want to share this news, and I appreciate you spending time with us. Again, big news that the asthma and allergy doctors now are getting a document that says don't tear out the carpet. That's no way to minimize the impact. Again, we're talking to Joe Yarborough, the president of the Carpet and Rug Institute, and you've been listening to Kemp Harr and FloorDaily.net.